The modeling page in the drum editor, the second page here, is where we can continue to sculpt the behavior of these drums to make them respond more or less realistically to the way that we play. So let's take a look. We'll stick with our snare for now. The first option in the modeling page is the dampening area. So we can dampen that snare a little bit if we don't want it to ring out quite so much. So if we want that sharp snares, or we can let it ring out. So it sounds like you're actually putting on or removing an actual damper. You can adjust the frequency of the dampening and the ambient ratio, so how much dampening is happening in the ambient mics. At 100%, you're actually getting less dampening happening in the ambient mics, but then at 0%, the dampening is the same as the direct mics. Choke response. So this is a little bit more to deal with cymbals, but you can do some cool stuff with the choke response by activating different choke groups. So let's just do something we normally wouldn't do, but I'll do this just so that you can hear it a little bit more drastically. We'll take this crash cymbal, and let's assign that to, instead of its own choke group, let's assign that to choke group 2. So now, if I hit the crash, you notice it decays for a while. Well, the snare is now also in choke group 2, so I'll hit the crash, and you'll notice that when I hit that snare, it cut it off. It didn't do it just immediately, but it did it pretty quickly. So now instead of a long decay, which can go on for a very long time, it choked it off. Now, you probably won't want to do that with, a snare drum and the cymbal, but you may want to do that with various cymbals with the hi-hat and things like that. So you can adjust how these cymbals choke and make them sort of choke each other and cancel each other out. Let's stick with the cymbals for a minute and talk about cymbal swelling. So you've got different ways that these cymbal swells can behave. You can even adjust how much of it you want to happen. So when I hit that cymbal, if I hit it again, on the default behavior you hear one thing, but if we do long cymbal swells, the cymbal is still swelling, so that second attack is not as strong because it's still moving. If I do a second attack really quickly, you hear those second attacks are a little bit less. So you can do default behavior or adjust different sort of paradigms, different algorithms for the cymbal swells. And that will adjust how much they're kind of, reverberating there and adjust their sound when you're hitting several cymbals in a row. Let's take a look at the snare. Back on the snare again. So we're going to articulations. The snare has lots of different ways you can hit it. It's got drags, half edge hits, rim shots, all that stuff. So right now we're going to adjust all articulations. And this is the audition strip. It's really cool because it's dynamically, it's velocity sensitive. If you start here on the left, we've got some quiet velocities, and start here on the right, some louder ones. So when you're setting up some articulations, it's really cool. You can adjust the trim of a certain articulation. So if you feel that the rim shot is too loud in comparison to the regular hit, you can go to the rim shot, bring it down a little bit, and then go to the hit, and you'll see it's normal. So you can really make some subtle adjustments. Again, double click to reset anything. Let's go back to all articulations. You can balance out that drum the way you want to. Now, you can do variants. So this is using round robin sampling. When you hit the snare over and over and over again, let's use the mouse instead of the key so that we really can guarantee that it's the same thing. You hear it cycling through those round robin samples. So you're getting just like a human. It's not hitting it in exactly the same spot. It's moving a little bit left and right. So you can adjust how much it does that. If I take the variance out totally, you're going to hear the same sample over and over, which is a little more mechanical. I leave the variance up high, and it's a little more human. You got some slightly different hits there. You can have pitch and dampening respond to your velocity. So if you want your velocity to change the dampening, I can try it on either side. So as I'm getting louder, it's dampening more. And the same with pitch. I can have it so that as I hit harder, the pitch of the drum changes. Listen to the pitch as I start from soft and go to loud. So you can have velocity affecting the pitch ever so slightly. Or not at all. Then you've got this awesome feature called tom resonance, and it's only available. You'll notice some of these features pop in and out as you go, because you don't need a cymbal swell feature necessarily on the snare drum, and you don't need tom resonance on the cymbal. So tom resonance is how the toms react to you hitting other drums. When you hit a snare drum, because the toms are close, the vibrations actually make the toms ring out a little bit. So right now I have it off, so when I hit the snare drum, if you look at those tom faders, they're not responding. There's nothing happening. But if I turn it on, you see a little bit happening there in the toms. It's very subtle. It's hard to hear, but it's one of those things that if you add it in with all the things that BFD is doing, it makes it sound a lot more realistic. Let's raise the trim amount of the resonance so we can really hear what that sounds like. So hear those toms ringing? Some of you are going, wait a minute, I work so hard to make that not happen when I'm recording. I use all this dampening stuff, but it's great because you can really adjust how much of it you want to happen. If you're doing like a punk track that's heavy on the toms and stuff, and you got these deep, thunderous toms, you get a little resonance in there, and psychologically that can help you make your drum track sound a lot more realistic. So you can turn the tom resonance on or off. I like to leave it on a little bit because, again, if you add up all these things like tom resonance, articulation, round robin sampling, dynamic variance, all that stuff together makes it sound so realistic. So that's the modeling panel.